So recently, I've been delving even deeper into the sutras in the Nikayas, and these things are so fire, I swear to God. I love reading the Nikayas, they're great, but also I've just, ever since I saw that the Dharma works, that the Dharma does lead to the ending of suffering. Whoa, there's a deer, wait. What? It ran past. But ever since I saw that the Dharma does lead to the ending of suffering, that it is a true and tested method, and that there's actually no other method that actually leads to ending of suffering. No other method. There is no other method. Why? Because only the Dharma uproots the causes of suffering. All other spiritual paths, while they may condition wholesome states or deep states of meditative absorption or concentration, or they may alter perception, so a non-dual perception arises, it's all still conditioned. And if you don't believe me, if you say, oh, there's Buddha nature, because I believe that's nonsense too, but or everything's non-dual, or it's all one awareness, or it's all God, for you to arrive at that perception or at that conclusion, conditions had to have been met. So it's a conditioned perception. The fact is, it can be seen as multiple or it can be seen as non-dual. Those are both conditioned perceptions. So it's not even a useful lens. It may eliminate a lot of mental suffering, or if I should use more precise terms, it might bypass mental suffering. But that's not the ending of suffering. Not at all. That's not what the Buddha pointed to. What did he say? Old age, sickness and death are also dukkha. That does not end old age, sickness and death. Even, like, I personally do believe in higher realms and lower realms, and rebirth in a heavenly realm, albeit more pleasant than perhaps the human realm, and longer lived with less dukkha, less suffering, is still conditioned, because you had to have good karma, you had to still be born, and everything that's born, everything that's conditioned is impermanent. Sabbe sankhara anicca. And because all conditioned things are impermanent, sabbe sankhara dukkha. They're suffering. So the misconception comes from achieving a conditioned state that might seem stable and persist for a long duration of time, and is accompanied by a pleasant, blissful feeling, and also seeing through some misconceptions and some wrong views leads to less suffering. Funnily enough, that was following the Dharma led you to less suffering. What the Dharma says, abandon wrong views. But yet, then you cling to a refined view, and you may have just put off the suffering or bypassed it, but it doesn't end suffering. It just suppresses it or bypasses it. That is not uprooting the cause of suffering. And I also find it very funny that people, a lot of wisdom is kind of half-baked or fake, or see, like, I'll give you an example. People tend to say, oh, suffering is just resistance to what is. And by the way, I was in that camp. That's why I didn't delete the videos, so you can see the change in what I'm saying. Not to erase everything, but to keep it going. But suffering is not just resistance to what is. Why? Because that's a conditioned view, and it's silly. Hear me out. People say, oh, your desire to end suffering is causing you suffering. It's clinging. Yes, it is. clinging to ending suffering does cause suffering, but that's the last desire you dropped, not in the middle. Until the path has been walked, you don't drop that, okay? That is the... See, everything arises due to conditions, right? And suffering is not just gonna end with a perception change. You have to uproot it. You have to put in the right effort. And the fuel for that effort is a genuine desire to end it, to end suffering. So seeing that desire as unbeneficial or just ego is silly, is preposterous, is lazy, is not gonna lead to the ending of suffering. Sure, you have to drop that in the end, but that's easy to drop once suffering ends. Oh, I see, it's ended. No, I no longer need to desire ending suffering. It's not like that specific desire itself is causing you all your dukkha, because many things cause dukkha, not just that one specific desire. And that one specific desire is actually very useful. And if you think you're done, you're just being conceited or egoic. Or see, the thing is, people think they're free from suffering, yet they still crave, they still cling, they still chase pleasant experience. That is not freedom, my friend. And they kind of cope. They say, oh, I'm just joyful, I'm blissful, everything is holy. No, you're just clinging to experience. You're clinging to becoming, bhava tana, craving for becoming. People think it's simple. They want to simplify it because they're lazy. And I'm not mad at them. That's just conditions again. I'm just pointing out the obvious, that there's not nothing to do. That's a final fruit. Arahants didn't say there's nothing to do. They said everything that had to be done has been done. That's why there's nothing to do. You still got work to do, my friend. Especially if you're on the internet. Personally, why I'm not a monastic is because I generally delight in the dharma. I cling to the dharma. I love the dharma. I have seen its fruits. The fruits have been seen. They have been tasted. I see that it works. It's the only method that's worked really effectively. And not bypassed, but legit uprooted things. That's why it is felt, it is seen that maybe perhaps delaying monasticism for a bit, staying with my friends and family, having a few interests, leads me closer to people where the dharma can be transmitted. So I'm getting a little too personal here, my bad. But all I'm trying to say is, don't trust lazy wisdom. See for yourself. Test the dharma. Test it like you test a knife, like you test a sword, like you test it. See it. Don't just say, oh, I heard a clever phrase that basically says I don't have to do anything, I'm already enlightened. Well, yeah, if everyone's already enlightened, why the hell are they still suffering? That's bullshit. That's nonsense. I'm sorry for getting a little rude there, but that is not true. And enlightenment is not a flex. Because that would still be self-view, and that's like the first feather you eliminate on the first stage of enlightenment, stream entry. So someone who actually sees would not flex they're enlightened. That's nonsense. Not true. It's just seeing clearly what causes lead to dukkha and letting them go. From seeing, not as a deliberate action, but seeing catalyzes this shift. Why? Because when you see with wisdom, with wise attention, that is seeing clearly dukkha, so seeing dukkha as dukkha, that is important, right? People think equanimity is some sort of enlightened state, like, oh, now I've reached a state where nothing bothers me, I don't resist anything. But if that's not paired with wisdom, that's just ignorance. Hear me out. See, most people function like this. When they have a pleasant experience, they crave that pleasant experience, they chase it, they wish to arise it more often, they put in effort to arise the pleasant experience more often, and they suffer when the pleasant experience is not arising. Then when they have an unpleasant experience, they want it to end faster, they want to prevent its arising, they want it to go. That's dukkha. But see, when people are indifferent to experience, when they have an equanimous feeling, neutral, and that equanimous feeling is a conditioned feeling, not coming directly from liberation, but coming from just toughing it out and eventually it loses grip, the default reaction for people towards neutral things is ignorance. Not wisdom, not seeing, but ignorance. So it's not ending dukkha, it's... I don't see any dukkha. Where's the dukkha? And what that does is, if you don't see dukkha clearly, that does not lead to disenchantment, does not lead to dispassion, and does not lead to liberation. And eventually those conditions will change. Your equanimous state will not last forever. Your non-dual perception will not last forever. It will end because it arose due to conditions, and conditions always changing. And you will suffer. And you didn't put in the work. Why? Because of that specific spiritually enlightened state, you did not put in the work to uproot the causes for dukkha, and you suffer again and back into the loop. And because you didn't follow the dharma, which is the only path that leads to the ending of dukkha, because it's specifically geniusly designed to actually see dukkha, and through seeing dukkha clearly, letting go, uprooting dukkha. But following some feel-good, sounds nice spirituality, you are already here, you are already God, everything's already nice. You're not gonna end suffering, you're just delaying the inevitable. You're still gonna suffer, I'm sorry friend. But don't worry, the dharma is always here. And when it's forgotten, another Buddha shall arise and rediscover it for us. So no worries friend. The dharma is open, you can always practice it. And I like the gaslighting. Oh, those who practice, they're just egos, they're trying to become better and more enlightened. No, you're missing the point. They're trying to uproot the self. They're trying to uproot, and it has to be done through effort. Why? Because seeing requires concentration, and concentration requires effort. Wise attention is attention. It requires effort. So the path as a condition conditions wise attention, conditions wisdom, conditions that effort that leads to uprooting of the defilements, that leads to liberation, that leads to disenchantment, that leads to dispassion. If that is not done, then you're just chasing pleasant states. That is not awakening. You haven't uprooted craving. You're just craving a more refined taste. That is still within samsara. That is dukkha. Because sabbe sankhara anicca, sabbe sankhara anatta, sabbe sankhara dukkha. Can't escape that law. All conditioned formations are impermanent. All conditioned formations are not self. All conditioned formations are dukkha. If your practice doesn't lead directly to disenchantment, to dispassion, to liberation, then it's not leading to the ending of suffering. It's leading to a refined blissful state that may persist for eons, maybe, for a long, long time. But everything that is built must eventually fall. Everything that is born must die. Everything that arises ceases. That is the dharma. Seeing that clearly leads to disenchantment, dispassion, liberation. If it's not that, then it's more dukkha. That's it. Thanks for watching. See you in another video.